Somewhere right now, in a petrol station in Birmingham, at a gas pump in Texas, in a supermarket in Toronto, ordinary people are staring at a number they cannot explain. Prices they have never seen before. Bills that simply do not make sense. And most of them have no idea that the answer lies 5,000 miles away in the narrow blue waters of the Strait of Hormuz. In this video, we are going to connect those dots. We are going to explain how a war in the Middle East became a crisis in your kitchen, on your commute, and in your economy. Edna Brooke is your host on Geo Polity, and this is the story of oil, of Trump, and of the war that is rewriting the rules of the global order. Welcome back to Geo Polity, the channel where global politics meets your daily reality. If you are new here, we break down the world's most complex geopolitical events in plain language, no jargon, no bias, just analysis grounded in evidence. If this kind of reporting matters to you, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. We publish new analysis every week, and right now, this week in particular, you do not want to miss a single update. Let us begin. Let us start with raw facts, because facts are where clarity begins. As of this week, the price of Brent crude oil, the global benchmark, has risen more than 50% in just the past month. It now sits at over $100 per barrel for the first time since 2022. In the United Kingdom, petrol prices at the forecourt are forecast to reach between 150 and 170 pence per litre within weeks. That is a number that, just 12 months ago, experts called unlikely. In the United States, the average price of gasoline has jumped by 51 cents per gallon in a single week, one of the steepest single-week rises in decades. In Europe, energy futures markets are pricing in a 10 to 15% rise in household energy bills by July. Goldman Sachs has revised its oil forecast upward for the third time in 30 days. Oxford Economics has warned that if oil remains above $140 for more than 2 months, the global economy enters what they describe as a mild but broad recession. Now here is the question every viewer is asking. How did we get here? To answer that, we need to go back not days, not weeks, but to a decision made in Washington, D.C. that changed everything. On the 28th of February 2026, United States and Israeli military forces conducted coordinated strikes on Iranian military infrastructure. The operation targeted missile stockpiles, radar installations, and command facilities across northern and central Iran. The Trump administration had been warning Iran for months. Publicly, the messaging was clear. Iran would not be permitted to continue its nuclear program, its regional proxies, or its interference in Middle Eastern affairs. For Donald Trump, this was not simply a foreign policy decision. It was a statement of doctrine. He had returned to the White House in January 2025 on a platform that combined economic nationalism with military assertiveness, and Iran had long been at the top of his threat list. Within 48 hours of the first strikes, Iran's supreme leader issued a declaration that was watched by every energy trader, every finance minister, and every government on earth. Iran would not negotiate. Iran would not stand down. And Iran would not allow a single barrel of oil to pass through the Strait of Hormuz for as long as American forces remained in the region. That declaration triggered the most significant energy crisis since the 1973 OPEC oil embargo. Because what most people do not fully understand is just how important that strait really is. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow passage of water, at its narrowest point, just 33 kilometers wide, that sits between the southern coast of Iran and the tip of the Omani Peninsula. It is, without question, the single most important piece of ocean real estate on the planet. Roughly 20% of all the oil traded globally passes through this strait every single day. That includes oil from Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, Iraq, and Qatar, 5 of the world's top 10 oil exporters. When Iran threatens to close the strait, it is not threatening just one country or one trade route. It is threatening to cut off 1/5 of the world's oil supply simultaneously. The United States has powerful naval assets in the region. The Fifth Fleet is based in Bahrain, just 400 kilometers from the strait. But the military reality is complicated. Keeping a strait open against an adversary willing to use mines, drones, and fast attack boats is not a simple operation. It is an ongoing, dangerous, and expensive commitment. And while the U.S. Navy works to maintain freedom of navigation, global markets are not waiting for military certainty. They are pricing in risk. And right now, the risk is the highest it has been in a generation. For viewers in the United Kingdom, this crisis arrives at a particularly difficult moment. The UK imports approximately 40% of its natural gas, and a significant portion of its refined petroleum products are tied, directly or indirectly, to the global crude price. When Brent crude rises, petrol prices follow within weeks. The Office for Budget Responsibility, Britain's independent fiscal watchdog, has warned that a sustained energy price shock of this magnitude could push UK inflation 1 full percentage point higher than current forecasts by the end of the year. That means the Bank of England faces a serious dilemma. It has been cautiously cutting interest rates to stimulate a stagnant economy. But if inflation rises because of energy prices, it may be forced to pause or even reverse those cuts. For anyone with a mortgage, that matters enormously. For ordinary households, the impact arrives in layers. First comes petrol, then home heating, then food, because food production, food processing, and food transport all depend on energy. Then comes the knock-on effect on businesses, on wages, and on jobs. This is not scaremongering. This is macroeconomics. And the British government is watching it in real time. The situation in the United States is different in structure, but equally serious in consequence. Unlike the UK, the United States is now a net energy exporter. American shale oil production has transformed the country from one of the world's largest energy importers to one of its largest producers. In theory, the U.S. should be insulated from Middle East supply shocks. In theory, the reality is that oil is a global commodity. Its price is set by global supply and global demand. When a fifth of global supply is threatened, the price rises everywhere, including at American gas stations. And that creates a profound political problem for Donald Trump. He launched this military action in part to project strength. But American voters measure their president's performance at the pump. A gas price that rises 50 cents in a week does not feel like victory to the family filling up their truck in Ohio. The Trump administration's response has been characteristically aggressive. The White House has floated the idea of emergency price controls on domestic gasoline. It has pressured Saudi Arabia to increase production. It has discussed dipping into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the emergency oil stockpile maintained for exactly these kinds of crises. None of these are long-term solutions. They are pressure valves. And the fundamental pressure, a war in the Persian Gulf, has not gone away. In every crisis, there are winners and losers. And understanding who benefits from high oil prices is just as important as understanding who suffers. The clear short-term winners are oil-producing nations outside the Persian Gulf. Russia, despite its own geopolitical isolation, benefits every time oil rises. Norway, Canada, and the United States domestic energy sector see profits surge. The losers are every nation that imports more oil than it produces. That includes most of Europe, Japan, South Korea, India, and the developing world, where energy poverty is already a daily reality and where a 50% oil price rise is not an inconvenience, but a genuine humanitarian crisis. It also includes China. Beijing consumes enormous quantities of Middle Eastern oil. A sustained disruption to Hormuz shipping threatens China's manufacturing sector, its economic growth targets, and its political stability. That is why China has been quietly engaging in diplomatic back-channel conversations with both Washington and Tehran, urging de-escalation. The International Monetary Fund has revised its global growth forecasts downward twice in the past 3 weeks. The World Bank has warned that the combined effect of the oil shock and broader geopolitical uncertainty could reduce global GDP growth by 1 to 2 percentage points in 2026. To put that in plain terms, this is not just a story about petrol prices. This is a story about whether the global economy enters a period of prolonged difficulty and about which political leaders will be held accountable when it does. This is the question that every viewer, every investor, every government official is asking. And the honest answer is we do not know. But we can read the signals. President Trump has said publicly that the conflict will be over very soon. His defense secretary has given a far more sobering assessment that operations will continue until Iran is totally defeated. Those two statements are not compatible. And that contradiction tells you everything you need to know about the current state of American strategic thinking. Iran, for its part, has shown no signs of standing down. Its economy, already under severe sanctions pressure, has little left to lose. And its leadership has staked its legitimacy on the narrative that Iran does not yield to American ultimatums. The most likely path to de-escalation runs through a third party. Qatar and Oman have historically served as discreet intermediaries between Washington and Tehran. Turkey has expressed willingness to mediate. China has strong economic incentives to bring both sides to the table. The scenario that markets are watching for is a partial agreement, not a full peace deal, but an arrangement that reopens the strait to commercial traffic in exchange for a pause in military operations. That kind of deal could bring oil prices down from their peak within days. But we are not there yet. And until we are, the world will continue to live under the shadow of $100 oil and the uncertainty of what comes next. What you have just watched is not simply a news bulletin. It is a map. A map that connects a military decision in Washington to a petrol pump in Birmingham. That connects a threat made in Tehran to a mortgage decision in Manchester or a grocery bill in Michigan. The world is more interconnected than most people realize, and geopolitics is not something that happens to other people in other places. It is something that shapes your life, your costs, your choices, and your future. That is what Geo Polity exists to show you. If this analysis was valuable to you, please like this video. It tells the algorithm that this kind of serious, evidence-based reporting deserves to be seen. Subscribe to this channel if you want to understand, not just follow the news. We are publishing new analysis on this crisis every few days, and the story is moving fast. Share this video with someone who is wondering why their energy bill just went up, or why the price at the pump feels so different this month. Give them the context they deserve. And leave a comment below. Tell us, how is this crisis affecting you? Are you worried about energy prices? Do you think military action was the right call? We read every comment, and your perspective shapes what we cover next. This is Geo Polity. Stay informed, stay analytical, and we will see you in the next one.